Hello and welcome back, my body language buddies. Today, in episode 32, the big question is, can you tell who's the manipulator in a couple when you watch their statements separately? And to solve this riddle, we will be looking at LaToya Forever and Adam Ali's videos, who both claim that the other tried to manipulate the relationship, which dates back to 2011 when they met together to collaborate on a YouTube project, began dating, married, had 3 kids, and finally divorced in 2020. Reading couples' body language is always interesting, as we saw in previous episodes like Jada and Will, The Stuffers, Derek Jackson's apology, or Meghan and Harry interview. In this case, we'll be watching a different dynamic because we'll analyze their body language while each one tells their own side of the story, separately. As for me, I will be looking at their videos with a fresh set of eyes and absolutely no preconception of their couple dynamic. There seems to be a lot of content about them out there, so this is my promise that if this video gets to 10,000 likes, I'll do a bonus video about the body language signals that they displayed over their last years as a couple. In this episode, you will discover how to tell when someone is being truthful about what they say, how to compare the body language clues of 2 people when they talk about the same event, and one type of question that always comes in handy to reveal true emotions. Remember that I've got a gift for you, my 100 body language tips in a free PDF that you can find right in the description. And thank you for supporting my channel. All you have to do is subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my body language episodes. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and I want you to uncover the secrets that people try to hide from you. The first thing that struck upon watching the videos at first sight was the similarity between both postures right at the start. It's almost a copy of each other with their shoulders down, their hands between their legs, and a neutral chin. Not too high or too low. That's a classic posture of being a bit defensive, like they won't be accepting rebuttals to what they're about to say. Let's start with the very first words of Adam when Tasha asked him about their separation video last year.
I saw the separation video about 6 months ago, and interesting enough, you said that it wasn't a separation. You guys were actually divorced.
Well,
then
I'm gonna defend her on that point there, because but then I followed up with a video of my own, where I called it divorce.
So LaToya had published a video where she called it a separation, and then Adam followed saying that it was an actual divorce. But the first thing he says is that he wants to defend her decision of addressing it publicly, only that at that exact time he shows a bit of anxiety with that hand gesture and that rapid blinking. Maybe it's the fact that he didn't like her addressing that publicly, or that he feels guilty in some way, but we know that he's both remembering because his eyes are to his left, and he's upset by it because when he covers the topic he presses his lips and tenses his jaw. Now look at the facial expression signals of Adam recalling that moment.
Which is confusing, because at that point when she released that video, yeah, there was divorce is happening here. Like, what separation are you talking about? And even at that same point, she was even at the house, so it was kind of weird that she was making a video about separation.
So you guys were living.
It's nice when you can catch various signals of being truthful when someone is talking. In this case, you not only have the confirmation that he's remembering, but also he's actually confused by LaToya's behavior at that moment. He shows it in his facial expressions. There's even real surprise in there, deep shrugging and saccades, which are rapid eye movements to a final squinting. As I've told you before, it's almost impossible to practice and reproduce so many facial expressions, and when those facial expressions match what people are saying, then we have a very good signal that they are being truthful. But there's one way that someone could lie showing all the right signals and fool even an experienced analyst, and that's the Stanislavski technique. Can you give us a short take on that, Sarah?
Of course, Jesus. The Stanislavski technique is practiced in acting so that the person doesn't have to fake emotions, but actually represent their actions that their character would be feeling at that moment.
So it's less like practicing your body language and more like understanding the emotions of your character. Anyway, so far I think that Adam is being truthful in his statements, but let's switch to LaToya and address her own body language expression.
Hey guys, in today's video, I will be interviewed, and I'm nervous because I'm going to be discussing what led up to my divorce. My ex-husband has been getting interviewed by social media platforms telling our story.
LaToya's situation is pretty much similar because she's been interviewed on her side of the story. The first thing that I spot is the fact that even she has a long time record as a YouTube and TV personality, she's making a lot of stops. I understand that she could be nervous about the topic that she's about to address, but she's just getting started and should not have any trouble introducing this interview. That slap on the leg signals that she's upset with what she's doing at that time, and we still don't know if it's about the divorce itself or having to talk about it, but those very long blinks that are in fact closed eyes tells us that she doesn't want to be there. Very easy to miss, but exactly after she says "my ex-husband," she presses her lips and shows a contempt facial expression so you can tell she doesn't feel at ease talking about him. I also pointed out that eye drift to her creative side. It doesn't have a concrete meaning at this point, but who knows how it can help us later. Now, we know how Adam feels about the divorce itself. Watch LaToya's face expression when she addresses the same topic.
I hope you guys can get an understanding as to why my ex-husband and I got a divorce and why we are here today.
This is something that is critical when you're looking at a couple's body language, whether they are in the same room or not, and if they show the same emotional reactions when they talk about the same topics. In this case, LaToya presses her lips right before saying a divorce, which is very similar to Adam's reaction in the same situation. When I offer relationship counseling, the first thing that I try to spot is what do they agree on? And most of the time, words alone are not enough because people usually answer what they think is the right answer. Body language reveals the real convergence of a couple, and that's the first step to assess if it's possible to rebuild it. Now let's see how Adam recalls those first months of the relationship and try to spot his emotions about having to move to LA back then.
After shooting the video, we just kept in touch, and she wanted to move to LA from Toronto, and she pretty much put my back against the wall. Are you coming, kind of thing. But little did we know there was a kid already brewing.
You see that Adam recalls these experiences showing a bit of pain, like when he tenses all the muscles of his face, or when he refers to LaToya's ultimatum of going to LA, he hunches a bit, he raises his eyebrows looking for empathy, and finally denies with his head, all forming a body language sentence that means that he didn't have much choice, even if they didn't know at the time that she was pregnant. It's a bit sad to see that his body language reveals that he was not so sure of that decision at that time, like he felt forced. But how does LaToya recall the exact same anecdote?
We actually moved in together 6 months after we met, so everything happened so fast. I feel like it was so rushed looking back now.
Wait a minute. Why is she touching her toes like that?
I wish I had an answer to that. Looks like a pacifying gesture. Most pacifying gestures are a signal of anxiety.
Yeah, only that it's a bit gross. Even with that pacifying gesture that shows that she is a bit anxious about the topic, her face expression is of real delight. But at the same time, she says that she felt the whole process of dating and moving like a bit rushed, and she does that long blink again at the end, showing that she doesn't feel entirely comfortable about the topic. So what's really off is her smile, and that marks a subtle body language contradiction with what she's saying. Remember that in body language, you keep stacking those contradictions, the clues, the nonverbal signals, until you can reach a conclusion about the real emotions of the subject. So the more contradictions that you observe, the less credibility the subject has. Now it's your turn to be the body language analyst. We're going to watch two statements back to back about the exact same topic, and let's see if you can spot whether one of them is telling the truth and the other is lying, or both are truthful or not. Watch this clip.
I loved her, yes. I'm just gonna keep it at that. I did love her.
Were you in love?
Based off of events, I wouldn't say I was in love with her, but
I love Adam. You know, he's the father of my children. He's a great dad. I will always have love for him. I don't think that I was ever in love with him, but I do have love for Adam.
The answer at the end of this video. Now, the following clip is not much about body language, but it has a very important clue that will help us understand why and how their relationship went like that.
The reason why Adam and I got married is because I got pregnant with my firstborn, and both sides of the family pressured us into getting married. So we didn't really have time to discuss, you know, values and, you know, religion and just our beliefs. We just kind of jumped into marriage because we got pregnant.
It's not about being pregnant at the time. It's not even having to obey the will of the families. It's about the part where they didn't discuss their values. And I'm really glad that LaToya mentioned it, because discussing values is one of the most important things that a couple could discuss before getting married. In general, we're not aware of our own values. We don't take time each year to assess what are our current values and how do we want to live life according to them. That's why so many people suffer so much, because they lack that inner compass and live by the values of other people. By the way, for all my Patreon supporters, I'm glad to share my personal assessment tool to define your own values. You can find the link to my Patreon in the description of this video. Now, LaToya also made very serious claims about Adam's behavior. Let's watch the next clip to see what we can make of it.
He turned on the light and he grabbed my legs and pulled me. He picked me up, shoved me against the wall, and he started to like choke me. And the kids ran into the room. They started crying, you know, they were saying, "Daddy, take your hands off Mom." And then he took my phone, he smashed it. And at this point, I was so scared, I was terrified. I literally thought I was gonna die that day.
You might be wondering why you didn't see any emotional markers in that clip. And it's because even if I watch it more than a couple times and ran Sarah's software through it, it has no relevant facial expressions. What else can you add, Sarah?
Beyond the lack of emotions in her face, there's also the fact that her voice didn't have changes in tone, frequency, or stress compared to other segments of the video. This is atypical for statements of this kind.
It's not common at all to watch a woman talking so casually about an event like this. There's always some kind of change. You speak faster, or the voice tone goes lower, or your blinking frequency shifts. Anything. Now let's watch Adam's answer to this and listen to the words that he picks.
There was a hustle and tussle. I never striked her, okay? I never put my hand on her. That was it. Was she probably scared? Yeah, she probably was. I never striked you, I never hit you or anything of that nature.
Body language is just a part of human behavior, so you should always first listen to what the people say and then check their nonverbal signals. And what does he say? He talks about striking, he talks about hitting. She never used those words. So that's really interesting. She shows no relevant emotions recalling what happened, and at the same time he escalates the denial, going much further than her claims. I'm going to be clear with this, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but it's very common that when a manipulator wants to deny that they harmed someone, they will usually use the higher grade denial. For example, you tell them that they caused you psychological harm, and they will respond, "But I never put a hand on you." You see that? They avoid a direct denial. That's why a direct yes or no question is always your best bet to determine the true intentions of someone. There's another clip from Adam's interview that caught my attention.
The simple question to look at everything is like, who is the common denominator? Like, who has survived her? Where is all her friends? Where is all her family? They're not here no more for a reason.
I understand the point that he's trying to make, that LaToya has alienated herself from her family and friends, and that proves that she's toxic. But if you've been in a relationship with a covert narcissistic manipulator, you know that they'll do everything and beyond to separate you from your friends and family, so you can focus on them. What's more, they're gonna blame you for that you're the one that drives everyone away, and then the narcissist is the only one capable of loving you and being by your side. Again, this is not enough to prove that Adam is a covert narcissistic manipulator. But that statement is exactly what a narcissistic manipulator would say after alienating you from your friends and family. But I have a question for you, and I'll be really glad if you take your time to share your point of view in the comments. We read body language to determine someone's true intentions, but sometimes, just by the circumstances, we can have a guess about what were those intentions in the first place. So, the question is, what was LaToya's intention of publishing this video? Because it's a mix between the story of their life as a couple with some serious claims in between. In fact, the name of the video itself is misleading. It's called Why Did I Get a Divorce? And why do I say that it's misleading? Because that title implies that she's trying to justify her decisions with someone. And who is watching the video? Her audience? For some reason, she felt that she had to publicly disclose the details that led her to that decision, just as she used to make public the details of her personal and family life. If the main topic of the video was the claims, it would have been 7 minutes at most. But then she dilutes it in 1 hour of fluff. And you know what kind of people like to fill their statements with a lot of fluffs about themselves?
Politicians.
Well, yes, but also narcissists.
Oh, I thought those were synonyms.
Well, your sarcasm plugin is working well. I don't think either of them is innocent. Yeah, it seems that they both made good and bad decisions, but LaToya's histrionic side wanted to be in the spotlight at all times, constantly showing their family and couple struggles to the public, only created more and more stress. Almost no divorce is a walk in the park for any couple. There's always going to be someone that is hurt more than the other, one that's more relieved than the other, some who will heal faster and others that will take more time to understand what really went wrong. But the critical part of these processes is each partner to be absolutely honest with themselves. Even if they are not honest between them, if they don't go for full disclosure, being honest about what they brought and what they took from the table is essential for that recovery process. There's not a one-size-fits-all perfect relationship standard, and that's great. Every relationship is unique. But then, the real reference of what makes a relationship fulfilling is how you feel about yourself when you are with your partner, and it only comes from your own sense of self-worth. That's in fact the secret behind truly healthy relationships. When each one feels fulfilled with themselves, each on their own, then the relationship will end up being greater than the sum of the parts. But when there's manipulation, narcissistic and histrionic behaviors, lies, or one of the partners sees the other as an emotional crutch, then it's not gonna end well. And the answer to today's riddle, were they truthful or lying when they were talking about being in love with each other? Yes. Both of them recognized in their own words and their own body language expression that they simply had a great professional relationship. They enjoyed time together, they did a lot of things because of their kids, but if you can imagine, that is simply not enough. One more thing.
I had to really ask myself, is this person a source of peace for me? And she just wasn't. She never was a source of peace for me.
Did you spot any other clues in the video? Don't forget to share them in the comments. If you want to support my episodes, there's the link to my Patreon in the description. And don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my body language episodes and tips. See you next time!